Now over to John for Trial Tuesday.
Trial Tuesday once again, everybody. Today we're talking about the recently signed Boland bill designed to keep guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. Attorney David Aylor, the Dean of Disclosure himself, joins us right now to weigh in on how this bill aims to prevent incidents like the one at the Ashley Hall School in downtown Charleston earlier this year. Counselor, welcome back to the program. Of course, this bill has been going through the legislature, finally passed. What does that mean right now for people trying to purchase a gun?
Well, ultimately, what it's going to come down to is something that was already in the federal law, and that was that anybody that has been, determined mentally ill is not able to purchase those guns. The issue was here in South Carolina, like so many other states, is that we didn't have any registration, we didn't have any formula, basically, to be able to check that when a person was coming to purchase a gun, like Ms. Boland, and therefore they were able to still get the gun.
So right now there was that whole question of adjudication that popped up, and we all learned that term. But as someone who works for the court, why don't you tell us what that is and how that's going to keep these guns out of the hands of people that really shouldn't be having them?
Well, obviously, first thing you have is individuals either on their own accord or through friends or family that get committed through the probate process. The probate judge, commits them. That would be the first way that they could get registered. There's going to be other issues related to different types of counseling and programs that people go in, but essentially what they would be put on is a list. They think that there's somewhere around 10,000 people that would be on that list here in South Carolina, and that list would be something that would be referred to as opposed to just a box an individual would check when filling out their application, because it's already in law as far as the federal government's concerned that you cannot have that gun. But the issue really was just the gap in between actually being able to determine whether or not an individual could or could not have the gun based on that fact.
So why did you need that state law if there was already a federal statute already in existence?
Well, so many times, often within the law, there's a gap in between a federal law and the state implementing it. And essentially, in this situation, there was no state law in place that had a registry or a directory that they could look to determine whether John Smith was on that list of mentally ill and should not be able to have a gun. Therefore, they were just having to take a person's more or less their word when they're filling out the application. Unlike the criminal background check, which obviously is national background directory that they can look and determine it based off their own research as opposed to just what an individual says.
So in this situation with Alice Boland, she went to that Walterboro gun shop and purchased a gun. She passed the background check because nobody really looked to see if she was on that adjudication process.
Because there was no list to look at, and that's the key point of this bill. If there would have been a list, obviously that gun shop would have done it. It's no different than looking at the background from a criminal standpoint. But since they didn't have that list to refer to, she was able to purchase that gun legally. The Walterboro gun shop did absolutely nothing wrong. They did every step correctly, but the problem was, and that's where Representative Stavronakis came in and put this bill in place, was that there was nothing to refer to.
This was almost such a incredibly horrendous situation at a downtown school here. We know that Alice Boland tried to fire that gun several times. Fortunately for everybody involved, it did not go off. But what happens to her in this process right now? We know that she's been transferred to North Carolina. Where do you think that case against her stands right now?
Well, obviously the main issue in that case is similar to any other case where you feel like there may be some mental issues. Whether they're not going to be able to adjudicate the case formally will be due to that, because essentially if she can't stand trial and she doesn't understand basically the process and the various things that go along with that, they're not going to be able to bring her forward, no different than any other person that may have mental disabilities.
This was such a grassroots effort to get this bill passed. Leon Stavronakis obviously proposed the bill, but the Ashley Hall mothers and parents were right there step by step making this thing got through Columbia and got it to where it needed to be to protect everybody. What do you say about that grassroots effort of people really going to their state lawmakers and getting this bill passed?
Well, I think it's a perfect example of where the process works. Not only did you have the grassroots efforts of parents and people that were concerned about this occurring, you also had the parties coming together, which we know within politics, probably even including today, that often doesn't happen.
Right.
There's a lot of things that get caught up within the mix of other political things involved. However, you really saw both the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Independents get behind this bill, and the governor signed it on Friday.
Well, hopefully some good things can come out of what could have been a very, very bad situation. Attorney David Aylor, thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Do appreciate it as always, and we're back with more Low Country Live right after this.